The John Wall situation with the Houston Rockets is potentially the most confusing, baffling, and as we'll make the argument in this video today, just wrong situation in the NBA. There's a multitude of reasons for which players miss time in the NBA or are out not playing, even if they're not out due to injury. We have the likes of Ben Simmons, who doesn't have a good relationship with the Philadelphia 76ers, wants to be traded, and is out currently due to mental health problems, which are completely reasonable given the circumstances of stuff he has had to go through. We've also have the likes of Rui Hachimura, who is someone that has been out for personal reasons for no specific reason to anyone's real public knowledge, but ultimately he's had to be dealing with some things, and he should hopefully be back in the court soon. And then we have the likes of players in the past, like Andre Drummond or other names that could be brought to light, where players are vets on the back end of bad contracts, on bad teams, and there's no real need for the young teams to play them. And the older guys are happy to sit out and agree to not play until a buyout is agreed to or until a trade partner is found. And now that is similar to what happened with John Wall this summer. The agreement was that John Wall was not going to be playing for the Houston Rockets. The Houston Rockets were going to look to find a trade partner for him or buy him out. But ultimately, they decided they were not going to be buying him out. And they ultimately have not found a trade partner due to it being very hard to trade the contract of John Wall. Now, that was fine and dandy while John Wall had agreed to not play with the Houston Rockets. And he was content to just show up, sit on the bench, do his thing, and not play. But it hasn't really been talked about much since, but about a month ago now, John Wall expressed the fact that he wanted to play NBA basketball again. He wanted to get back on the court because the Houston Rockets didn't seem that likely to finding a way out for him to get him on another NBA roster, back on an NBA court. He said, hey, look, I'm under contract here. I want to play basketball. And Houston were just like, yeah, no, you're not going to play. And no one talked about it. And no one has been talking about it, which is absolutely absurd. I shouldn't say no one talked about it. There was a little bit of conversation about it early on when that report first came out. But the fact that this hasn't been talked about more is extremely confusing and concerning to me. John Wall is a player under contract to the Houston Rockets. A good NBA player who should be playing, is good enough to be in the rotation for Houston, if not be one of their best players outside of Christian Wood. And he is not playing. And this is where we need to get to the discussion of other reasons, or the other reason specifically that players don't play, and that is for rest or for players being load managed or whatever it may be. And the league has fined teams in the past or forced players in the past to play on certain nights on nationally televised games so that players cannot load manage. Players have to be able to play, specifically top players on a team. That's happened before with the likes of Kawhi and others. Why is this not happening here? Why is this not a thing? Sure, John Wall is not Kawhi. Houston is not the Clippers or the Raptors at the time, or whatever it may be. But nonetheless, John Wall is an NBA player under contract. He is being contracted and paid to play basketball. He is more than good enough to be a member of the Houston Rockets rotation, and by sheer virtue of how good he is, sure, he is not as good as he was in Washington, but he's better than any other point guard on this roster right now. That's just a fact. Or if you like Kevin Porter Jr., he has upside. He was massively overhyped, and John Wall is currently better than him. Kevin Porter Jr. could still improve, but he's not there yet. So the fact that there has been no mandate, there's been no discussion from anything within the NBA to ensure and make John Wall play, there's been no fine set out towards Houston, just doesn't make sense to me. John Wall is an NBA caliber player who wants to play basketball and is being paid to play basketball, but by the person he's being paid is not being allowed to play basketball. So sure, he's getting his paycheck. They're technically fulfilling the duties of their contract. But ultimately, they are an organization and a franchise that is being run, sure, primarily as a business ultimately, but their product that they are producing is to have a basketball team at a professional level. And sure, Houston aren't exactly winning any titles this season. The goal from the NBA standpoint to produce more competitive basketball, to increase their ratings and fan turnout, should be to field competitive rosters, the most competitive rosters possible. And that's not happening in Houston right now. And for whatever reason, the NBA doesn't really seem to care. They don't really seem to have any care at all in making sure that John Wall is playing for the Houston Rockets this season, even though he is contracted by the Houston Rockets and wants to play for the Houston Rockets. That being said, that is my thoughts on the John Wall situation, how confusing it is, and why it is arguably wrong that he is not playing for the Houston Rockets at the moment. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.